Hey guys, a couple of weeks ago, one of us reached out and was having problems with the round 4 simulation. When I went into Stukent to help that student, I realized that no one made higher than a 60 at that point, which led me down the rabbit hole of what's wrong with round 4. I personally went in and redid it. I've taught entrepreneurship for 15 years now, and the simulations, though, I don't actually have the answers for. So I am going and doing them myself too. I'm just doing them before you. So I went and deleted everything on my profile and went and redid round 4 to figure out what is wrong. And guess what? The highest grade before I did it was a 60. You want to know what the highest grade was when I did mine? 69, which tells me something was wrong. It means one of two things. There's an error in round 4 somewhere, or we're missing something, and we're all missing it together. Well, I spent about a week and a half, emailing Stukent support back and forth, trying to figure out what this error is, because I was convinced it was the error. And they were very quick to tell me it was not the error. There was no error. We were missing something. And I missed it too. So I am here to do round 4 and show you how show you the tips and tricks to help raise your score on round 4 specifically. So I am going to share my screen, and I'm going to show you a few things. First, if you aren't watching these videos that Stukent shows us, you're doing yourself a huge disservice, because there is information in there that you need. So go back to round 4, watch the scenario, do the stuff in the inbox and the notifications hub. But what I'm here to show you is starts where it says custom backpack manufacturer and goes all the way down to advertising. Custom backpack manufacturer. The very first time that I ever did round 4, I picked 1. I did not pick more than 1. When I was digging into this, it kept referring to the idea that we would have automatically known to do more than 1. So when I went back and did it a second time, I picked 3. And what I did is I picked a manufacturer from international, 1 from large, and 1 from small. You don't necessarily have to do that. I'm here to tell you, pick more than 1. It can even be in the same type. It could be 2 large ones for all I can. Pick more than 1. Okay. So pick more than 1 manufacturer. While you're trying to decide on which manufacturers to choose, there are important things that I want you to pay attention to. 1, cost per item and lead time and minimum order quantity. Those are numbers that you're going to need to know. So you might as well write them down when you have selected the manufacturers that you're going to pick. If you have one that says lead time 11 weeks, you're going to need to pay attention to that on the screen where we're actually ordering, which is this demand and purchase order. So keep that in mind. Here is one of the ones that I chose, and I'm going to show you. Once you select it, whatever it is, and it doesn't matter which one you're picking, like I can go back and show you different ones, but for now, for the video, Maple Mountain Supply Group, it's $40 per backpack. It takes 7 weeks, and you have to order a minimum of 400, but you actually get cheaper pricing if you order 750 or 1100 at a time. So that's information you're going to need on another screen. It will show it to you again, but start putting your thought process through all of that. So knowing what we know about the backpack that needs to be ordered. Let me pause for a second. Also, this resources button, before you start doing this page that you're on, before you start clicking, go into the resources. And here's something I did not do the very first time I ever did this round. I didn't even realize the resource button was down there and that it had stuff I needed. It has stuff you need. Okay. Now, here's in it. I'm not going to read this whole thing to you. You can do that. I had a copy of the business plan because in round 2, 3, whichever one, when they sent us Ben's business plan, I printed it out and kept it. But it never occurred to me to pull it out now but you need to, and here's why. One of the things it's going to ask you is how many are you forecasting to sell weekly? And that instead of just pulling it out of the sky, there's actually information in here. I just got to find it. Okay, here it is. It says, what's the financial side of the business look like and how will you fund your business expenses? He actually puts in there, I expect to sell 500 to 1,000 backpacks per month. That is important information. Write that mess down. Okay. Remember that you can't sell if you have no inventory. So if you plan to sell 500 to 1,000 backpacks a month, you need to plan to sell 500 to 1,000 backpacks a month. And what that means is understanding where on the previous screen where I showed you how long it takes the shipments to arrive and the minimum order quantities and stuff like that, that comes into play. Because if it takes 11 weeks for your shipment to get in and your minimum order quantity is 400 doesn't even get us to the end of the month at these numbers. So you'd have to order a much larger amount. And one of the things you have to decide is how often do you want a shipment? Well, 11 weeks is a long time. So we've got to plan for multiple weeks. We've got to plan for 11 weeks of inventory. So it may be easier if you pick a supplier that actually could do maybe 3 weeks or 5 weeks or something like that. Okay. So, keep that in mind. All right. Also, remember who your target persona is. We dealt with target persona in a previous week, and some of us did really well with this. Our ideal target persona is right here. It's a guy. He is between the ages of 26 and 34. He buys 3 to 4 backpacks a year, which I thought was weird because who buys that many backpacks? However, I am not a 26 to 34-year-old male. So clearly my purchase behavior is different. That's fine. I just found it odd. Anyway, he spends on average between $76 and $100 per backpack. That is where you need to put your purchase price in on. When you're figuring how much you're going to charge, it needs to fall in there somewhere. Okay. He is employed full time. He makes between $65,000 and $80,000 a year, and he's a family man. He has kids. He's married. He needs a backpack that can carry the child care stuff, hiking stuff, because he takes his kids hiking, and he needs a laptop because he's got a job that requires laptop usage. Okay. So keep all of that in mind as you're going through all of these exercises. I actually went, and when I did it this time, I wrote all of this information down because you know what? It says regularly goes camping and hiking. Also this line that says feels responsible for supporting worthwhile charities. If you remember in a previous round, one of the questions that all of our survey people were asking was, would you pay more for a backpack if you knew that $20 every month or every purchase went to a charity? Well, that's important here. Keep that in mind. And he's like, hell yeah, I'll spend more money as long as I know it's going to a good spot. So keep that. This information is so important when going to the next screen. Okay. Also, and we'll come back to this in a minute, but there is research down in here that you're going to need to be able to answer some of the other pages. Okay. So you would go through here and you would decide based on the features that are here, what type of backpack that you're creating. So if we pick this backpack from Maple Mountain Supply Company, it starts out at costing us $40 a piece, which is kind of high, but it comes with all of these things. Does this fall in line with the research that we learned about in previous rounds? And does this help our guy that loves hiking, that has kids, that also needs a laptop or that has to carry a laptop? Do these features align for the most part. You'll never get all of them, by the way. You'll never meet 100% of every customer's wants and needs, but you can get a lot of them. So everything that we know about this guy, these are the features that come on the backpack automatically for $40. And then you can add some other things. What if you want canvas instead of nylon? What if you wanted 25 liter instead of 22 liter? What? Okay, you get the point. Okay. Then you go down here and you negotiate the price. They're telling you it's $40 based on everything that I clicked. Okay. Negotiate with them. I tried to negotiate with Maple Mountain Supply Company for more than 20% discount, and I got turned down every time. So we actually went back and forth before we settled on, and I accepted the negotiated offer of 20%. You may be luckier than me in terms of getting that price lower, but the goal is to get it as low as you can, because a $32 price per piece for us is way better than 40. Okay. Especially knowing that we need a 50% profit margin or higher, and knowing that our guy spends between $76 and $100 per backpack. So we have to keep all of that in mind, because if we're paying $32 if we're paying $40 for the backpack, it's really not advised to only sell it for $80. We're barely meeting our goal there. So the cheaper you can get the backpack, the better. Even if we do sell it at 80, I'd prefer to pay less than 40. You need to increase that profit margin. I think you get the point. Okay. So then you go to the next screen. By the way, let me back up. You do all of this for all of the manufacturers that you selected. I told you I did 3. So I had to do this part 3 times, once for each manufacturer that I selected, and pay attention to those lead times and how much per item it is. Okay. Negotiate a price for all 3 of them. So you negotiate this price and you accept it. Don't hit continue yet. Go back up to the top and do another one of the things that you had selected. Okay. So you'll have to do this screen for every one that you selected. When you're done with all of the ones that you selected, you go ahead and move to the next screen. Watch this video. I am not going to play it, but you really do need to watch it. I watched it a couple of times this time. I watched it the first time around. I watched it twice this time. There are some tips in there that you really need. Now, this is the purchase order. We need to figure out how often and how many we're ordering. Okay. This one on the screen is for Mountain distributors. Here is the discount tiers. And what this is, minimum order quantity was 500, but if you ordered 1,000 or 2,000, you get a cheaper backpack. Do we need to order 1,000? Maybe. That's a decision that you have to make, depending on who your manufacturer is and what the lead times are. The lead time for Mountain manufacturing was 5 weeks. I negotiated the price down a little bit, and cost with shipping ended up being $29.74. So I added it. Look, on this one, I added a few things. I actually got a discount for the size that I chose, so $3.75 off, but I actually added something. Don't just copy this, though. Hear me. There's multiple ways to get this right, and there's nothing that says this was a good choice for me, because the grade that you end up with takes into account at least 10 other things. So there's nothing that tells me, April, it's a really good thing that you paid $3.25 more for a USB. So don't just watch this video and copy what I did. Okay. So you had to forecast your weekly sales. Remember, on the business plan, he said the goal was between 500 and 1,000. So I chose, on this screen, I chose 130. That fell somewhere in the middle. I also said that we were going to charge $90 for the backpack. I don't know that 90 is better than 95 because I haven't gone back and done 95 yet. My point in telling you this, though, is focus on getting the backpack price as low as you can for you, and then pick a retail price that falls between that $76 and $100 that we know our target persona is willing to pay, and make sure that it is a profit margin of 50% or higher. Don't just say, hey, I got mine for 20 bucks. I'll just do $76 to keep it cheaper. That's not always the best plan. I'm not going to say that 90 is the right answer. I'm also not going to say that 90 is better than 85 or 95. But make a very good educated decision when it comes to how much that you're going to charge. And in this case, I ended up choosing $90. I also chose a $7,500 ad spend. And that's total advertising. In the previous time that I did this, I actually chose 5,000. And one of the things that in the feedback between the guy at Stukent and I, we were emailing back and forth, he kept saying, that we collectively as a class, we weren't spending enough on advertising, but he couldn't tell me how much, quote, enough was. So I knew I had spent $5,000. I increased it to 7,500 on my own without knowing what the ideal amount was. So I'm not going to tell you to use 7,500. I'm not going to tell you not. I'm also not going to say that 5 is better than 10 or 10 is better than 5. If you want to spend 10 grand on advertising, you do your thing. I don't have an answer to say whether that's good or bad because there's so many variables that go into your grade on round 4. So keeping your profit margin high, allocating your advertising revenue in the right channels, and I'll show you that in a second. Making sure that your inventory, when we get to that screen, never goes to 0 and that you never go in the negative. Okay, so those are things that you need to keep. So this is the screen that I was talking about. So your inventory. So like I said, lead time is 5 weeks. So I chose in this one, frequency, how often do I have a shipment delivered? And I put 4 weeks. Also, you can change all of this information and click calculate forecast, and then you scroll down and look. One, make sure that once your first shipment gets here, which in this case was week 5, which is right here, it's okay that these are zeros because you don't have inventory until the first shipment gets there, obviously. However, after this moment, you do not want your inventory to go 0, which means you didn't order enough or you didn't have them delivered often enough. So right here. So here's what my inventory looks like over the course of I think it's 18 weeks total or something. I don't know. It doesn't matter. That said week 23. So you get the point. Make sure this bottom number, when you're calculating your forecast, never goes to 0. Okay. Past this time. Also, you're going to look at revenue. Make sure that your revenue down here at the bottom never goes in the negative. It will fluctuate based on how much you're selling and when you're charged for a new shipment that's arriving. But make sure that when you click that calculate forecast button, that this never goes in the negative. And if it does, don't hit continue. Scroll back on up there, change these numbers, or change your manufacturer up here because you picked more than one, remember? Play with the numbers, hit calculate, and make sure that once your first shipment arrives, this never goes to 0, and this line ending cash never goes in the negative. All right. Now, what's the retail price? How much are you going to charge? Again, we want the goal is at least a 50% profit margin. So keep that in mind. The cost with shipping per bag ended up being $29.74. I chose $90. That falls well within our $76 to $100 range for our target persona. And so make sure that you're not always going with the cheapest is the best. I could have picked $76. There's nothing saying that I would have sold enough to overcompensate for the $14 difference there. However, I haven't played with it enough either to say that 80 could have been better Maybe 95 was better. I haven't dug into it enough. I'm not telling you that 90 is the answer. I'm saying I chose 90 is what I'm saying. Okay. So the goal is 50% or more profit margin. Once you have that number, make a decision on how much you should charge within the guidelines that you're given. Okay. And the guidelines on my target persona was between 76 and $100. All right. So then you hit continue. Here is where I'm going to tell you to pull up those resources again. Advertising by channel. You're going to be asked how you want to spend your advertising money. I spent $7,500. So I ended up having to write down $7,500. And here are all the channels that I could spend money on if I wanted to. Social media, search ads, streaming audio, magazine, print, streaming TV, broadcast, outdoor, radio. All right. No one is telling you to spend advertising in all of these channels. So I just chose some, and I chose them based on the numbers that I'm looking at. You can pick top 3, you can pick top 5, no one's telling you that you have to pick a certain number. You do need to advertise on more than one channel, but there is nothing that says that you have to. So, decide how many of those channels that you're going to do. This information is important, though, once you get to that screen. So keep that in mind. So make sure you're pulling up the resources. You will see advertising trends by channel. You will see top revenue generating social platforms. So you'll see that here, and it says Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, YouTube are top 5. And then you keep reading. Pay attention here. It says over the last 3 years, sales from TikTok have increased by nearly 30%. Sales from Instagram have grown just under 5%, while sales from Facebook and Pinterest have plateaued. It's likely due, at least in part, to the emerging popularity of TikTok. In addition, TikTok and Instagram have enjoyed an increased adoption rate among backpack purchasers in the last 3 years. Okay, so it's saying that TikTok is growing and growing and growing. And last year it was 3rd. That may mean that it should be 2nd or even 1st this year. So when you're splitting up how you want to spend your social advertising money, you need to keep that information in mind. Okay. It also shows everyone's platforms that they're using, and TikTok is number 1 here. It says it should be noted that TikTok is the only platform continuing to rise year after year. So as you're spending social media advertising, keep that in mind. Okay. I'll let you go back and read all of that, but understand it's important. It says average posts per day by our competitors. Now, no one's going to ask you how many posts per day you want to make. That's not what this is for. But this does show you where your competition is and how active they are. So I'll let you dig into those numbers and just kind of make decisions, whatever you see fit. Top revenue generating search ads. So search ads is one of our topics of advertising dollars spent. And you don't have to spend money in search ads if you want. But if you did, you need to look at this chart first. Top 3 were Google Ads, Microsoft, and Amazon. That's important information. So go back and look at that. Top streaming TV ads spent. So just streaming TV ads. You know, the ones that you get really mad at when you're sitting there watching Netflix and it won't let you fast forward. Those are the ones we're talking about. Top 5 are Netflix, Amazon Prime, Discovery Plus, ESPN, Disney Plus. Remember, my target persona is a guy age 26 to 34 who likes hiking. Chances are he's into other sports too. ESPN being on this list is not surprising. Also, Disney's not surprising either when you think about it. He's a family man. So, Friday night movie nights at the house with a bucket of popcorn and the kids sitting on the couch together. Not all ads shown on Disney Plus are toys. They know parents are in the room watching TV with their kids. So there's reasoning behind all of this. Okay. Magazine ads spent. That information is here. No one is telling you have to buy magazine ads. If you do, here is the information you need to make the best decision possible. Top streaming audio. Apple Music, Spotify, Pandora are the top 3. He is a hiker. He takes his kids on hikes. They spend a lot of time outdoors. If he's alone, chances are he's got a podcast in or he's listening to music. So this should not come as a surprise. So keep all of those reasonings in mind, okay, as you're going through everything. All right. So it's going to ask you to decide where your ad spend is going first by channel. So it's going to say magazine, streaming, TV, social media, search. And then in that, it's going to show you the list, like on social media, right? It won't let me switch. It won't let me switch because I've already done mine. Okay. Magazine and print. Here are the magazine and prints that you can select if you want to. Okay. And then knowing how much advertising revenue you have, first, at least on a scratch sheet of paper, allocate how much you want to spend per channel. So how much search ads, how much social media, how much streaming TV, streaming auto, and magazine print that you want to do. And if there's one that you don't want to do at all, don't do it. Okay, just don't. Meaning you don't have to click it. Allocate your channels first. And then you're going to click individually in each one of these, streaming audio, la da da da. So like social media, when you click in it, it's going to tell you, it's going to take you to a screen, how much advertising do you want to spend on TikTok? And it'll make you type in the dollars. So here's how I spent my own social media money out. And I don't actually have, I know what score I got on this. I don't actually know whether these were the best options. So use everything that you've read in the resources and make the best decision. Remember, on advertising and social media, it said Instagram, Facebook, and then TikTok, but then said TikTok and Instagram are the only ones that have grown, and TikTok's grown almost 30% in terms of ad revenue. So I decided not to spend all, the top amount of money in Instagram, and instead I moved TikTok to the top. I don't necessarily think that you should or shouldn't. I think you have to make that kind of a decision for yourself. So you go through all of the ads and you decide where you're spending and where you're not spending. I actually did choose magazine print ads, and I think I'm gonna go back and do it again and not do it this time. I don't know if that was a good or bad choice. I'm happy with my score, so obviously I don't need to change it, but I can't sit here and tell you whether that was a good choice or not. So you can see everything that I did in this example, but there are other equally good choices to make depending on how everything falls in. So things to keep in mind: negotiating your price down for your bag. Pick more than one manufacturer initially. Make sure that you are calculating your forecast on that page on all of them. That way you can make sure that you didn't go in the negative on money and that you didn't run out of backpacks. Also, split up the advertising however you need to, but make sure that you are spending enough on advertising. Don't just spend a total of $500 on advertising. The first time I did this, I spent $5,000, and this time I spent $7,500. I don't know if 10 would even be better. But don't get too shy on advertising spending, but at the same time, don't actually just not spend any money on advertising either. Okay, so if you want, once you get to the end of this page, you hit run simulation and then you move on. Here's what I'm offering. If you want to redo round 4, I am here to reset it for you. I just need you to send me an email. I will not reset round 4 until you have emailed me. Hear me. Because here's what's going to happen. If I reset round 4 for you, it's also going to reset rounds 5, 6, 7, and 8, however many you've done. If you got low grades on all of them from round 4 moving forward, I am on board with resetting them for you. Just know you're going to have to redo all of them. Hear me. That's the offer. I will reset it today if you tell me to. Don't ask me to reset everything the day before finals are due, though. You won't have that kind of time. I won't have that kind of time. But once you watch this, if you decide that you want to reset round 4, I am all over it with you. Just know it's going to reset the other ones that you've done too. The ones past it. It won't touch rounds 1, 2, and 3. But if you've worked ahead and you're all the way to round 8 already, even though we haven't started round 8 yet, and you got a 60 on every one of them, I am on board with resetting all the way back to round 4. So make a decision, shoot me an email. If you want me to reset it, I am on board to do that. If you have any questions beyond, let me know. I am more than willing to reset whatever you need reset until you, when you're ready to do that, if you're ready to do it. I don't want to reset everything 10 times. But I am willing to work on this. So if you want me to reset it, holler at me. I'm going to try to make another video for round 5. So keep that in mind. I won't do that today, though. I'll do that one soon enough. If you want it reset, shoot me an email. And I guess that's it. Good luck, and I'll talk to you soon.